KMAV AM is celebrating 50 years on the air on this October 20th. And Bob, I know that back early 70s, and for a while there, you were calling games for KMAV.
That's correct, Dan. We used to go out and record them on Friday night and then play them back on Saturday mornings. So it was kind of a self-critique type of thing.
Got to do the game one night and hear yourself do it the next day.
Right. And believe me, there were some mistakes to correct, but we did that, and we went to a lot of, at that time, small gyms in various communities. I remember of going to Page, and a guy that used to sell advertising out at KMAV was Everett Thorson, and Everett always liked to go to Page with us because they served homemade pie over there, and that was one thing. We went to Buffalo, North Dakota. We set up, and that was just stage seating over there. The team sat on the floor, but all of the community people, spectators, sat up on the stage. And, of course, we got there early enough so that we took some of the best seats. So we weren't the most popular people that night.
I bet.
And in that same community, we were at Buffalo, North Dakota one night doing I believe it was a girls' game, and all of the lights went out. And as you do a game, you're probably just, a millisecond behind, and when the lights went out, you found you were the only one talking in the gym.
Yeah, and everybody was listening to you, probably.
So, a lot of good memories about doing those games, Dan.
So I guess the good thing that happened is when KMAV FM went on the air, and you guys were able to actually do the games as they happened.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, they came on the air about the time district or regional tournament games were starting, and they were being played here at Mayville State, and so that was quite a treat, really, to be on a new station and being able to cover them live.
Of course, you were doing these games while still working at Mayville State.
That's correct. There were lots of nights away from home. That's for sure. As I recall, we would do Fridays for sure, and I'm thinking I'm going to say Tuesday nights, but I'm not completely sure on that.
That's kind of how it used to be, before everything got put together. It used to be Tuesdays and Fridays, and the college would play on Mondays and Thursdays, and it used to work out pretty well.
It really did, and, over the period of years, as you did games, Jim Johnson called me this morning and asked a couple of things about my time, and I said, I think of Rod Higgins sitting next to him doing a game. I think about Russ Smith. I think about the gentleman from Wahpeton that just passed away,
Gary Rogers.
And they kind of took a young guy a little bit under their wing, and it was just a lot of fun. They were good mentors and good friends.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because when I came into North Dakota in 1981, Rod Higgins and Russ Smith were very good to me too. It shows that's the character of those guys. They were here for a long time and they were very good, but they were also willing to help the young guys out.
Well, and I think about one that you'll remember is Lee Halverson from Devil's Lake.
Yeah, I worked with Lee for 2 years in Williston. You bet.
You bet. He was a good guy, and I believe he had a brother in the business.
Yep, Les Halverson still is, in fact.
In Botno?
Yes.
Okay. And I think he may have gone to school here at Mayville State at one time.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah. And so, and of course, you mentioned Dave Lee. Dave, I believe, was a student at UND, maybe worked here at Mayville State sporadically or a time or two, let's put it that way. And now he's in the big time.
Yeah, WCCO Minneapolis. You can't get much bigger than that.
Well, and it's always fun if we travel in that area and we're up in the morning traveling and so on. I make sure I'm on WCCO, and I've often thought, if there was a call-in time, I was going to call him, and that's never materialized.
Yeah, Dave was one of those, another small-town boy that did very well.
He really did, and and he does such an assortment of things for WCCO. I'm never surprised when you get a feed from maybe their state tournament or something, and it's Dave Lee.
Yep. Yeah, Dave does the Minnesota tournaments on TV now. Basketball and football and the like.
Well, and another name that will come up that the community might remember was a guy by the name of Bobby Matoxen, who was the early man out at KMAV. Bobby eventually moved to Minneapolis and did some work down there. Eventually got out of the business, and I went into security or some such. But Bob said, "You've got to come and see me, and we'll go to a Twins game." And I said, "Well, yeah, that would be great." He said, "I'll get us into the press boxes. Who would you really like to see?" Because he said, I've met all those guys. I know who they are. We could get in, and he said, that would really be great. Well, at that time, doing Milwaukee, Bob Euchre?
Sure.
And I said, that's one guy I would really like to meet. Oh, he said, you're in for a treat. He said, if you get down here, we'll do it, and that will be a special treat for you. Well, it never materialized, but that's always been on my mind.
Yeah, it'd be fun to meet Bob Euchre. That's a character right there.
So, no, but those were good years. Like I said, good friends, and you think about all of the coaches that you knew on a first name basis.
Yeah, well, you happened to be around when there were some guys that became legends were coaching.
Well, you think about Ed Beyer, you think about Jimmy Housen, you think about the gentleman that used to be at Oak Grove, Steve Carnell.
Sure.
There were just a slug of those names around. I think of the guy that used to be at Dakota Prairie, Kurt Herman.
Yep.
And if you happen to get to Devil's Lake, of course, you got to see Ronnie Carlson.
Well, exactly, in Minnewacan, exactly.
Yeah. So there were, you touched a lot of people.
I would imagine that the listeners to KMAV were rather happy when you guys were able to do the games live. I'm sure the players enjoyed getting a chance to listen to them when you recorded them, but I'm sure it was quite well received when you guys were able to do things live like that on the FM station.
Well, it was interesting in that you sometimes were asked, "Are you going to do any interviews?" I would like to talk, and you kind of had to pick and choose a little bit, but that happened, and I talked to one individual, and he said, "I still have the tape."
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and Steve Kylo, who lives down south here, played at Galesburg. Played at Galesburg, I believe. And he said, "I still have a game that you did when I was playing for Galesburg, Clifford Galesburg Twins."
Wow.
So maybe I should get that and replay it sometime, Dan.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear. Yeah. Well, I know you were still doing in the Patriots in '82 because for some reason you couldn't make the state tournament that year, and I was working in Grafton, and I remember I called the games for KMAV for the Mayport CG from the state tournament that year. I think they were runners up, if I remember right, to what's the town? Hettinger.
Hettinger, yeah,
The
that's
Black
right.
Devils beat them in the title game that year.
You know, I was at that tournament, but I don't know if I just don't know why.
Yeah, you came out and I met you like on Saturday night. I think maybe you missed the first day or two or something. I forget what the deal was, but
yeah, it's that's a long time ago now.
yeah, isn't that the truth?
So, but it's hard to believe that that 50 years, and of course Austin and his partner from up at Grafton,
Francis Phelan.
Yeah, Francis Phelan. And Everett Thorson were kind of the mainstays out there, and boy, they wanted to get her done.
Yeah, that's what talking to Austin, that was very interesting, and I didn't realize till I visited with Austin that he'd been in broadcasting basically his whole life. He was working in radio in Grand Forks, so when he sold the station here, he was working and putting cable TV on the air, and he's had a lot of fascinating jobs over the years.
Well, he's a real entrepreneur and does a wonderful job. A very highly organized gentleman, and a good mentor for me because he'd been around a long time, heard and seen a lot of things, and could relate to them in a not a critical way, but in a way that would make you better, and he certainly did that.
Bob, you were at Mayville State for how many years? I know you were there a long time.
For 31 years.
Okay.
And interesting thing about it is, Austin, I've always had a pretty strong voice, and as I was growing up, we didn't have a TV until I was about a senior in high school. You listened to the radio all the time. The Burt Wicks and Jack Miller, I think it was, in Devil's Lake. That was the area that I was from, and never once did I think that I could use my voice to have been in doing that type of thing. And then found out later, as I did some things on the mic for public address and so on, that you should have done that, Bob. Well, it's too late then,
Right. I can remember coming here from Devil's Lake to do the region tournaments, and you were the PA voice for many, many years at Mayville State.
Yeah, and again, I never kept track of that. Jim Johnson asked me this morning, well, how many games did you used to do? And I said, between football, basketball, and Legion baseball, we did 100 games there for about 3 or 4 years. So you were away from home a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for it all to add up. That's for sure.
Well, tournaments were a real boon. Somebody said, "Did your voice ever get sore?" No, but I said, you knew when you were done with a tournament that your voice was tired.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't know of a better way of putting it, but there were times, when you would do 4 games, get up the next morning and do a couple lectures for classes that you were teaching, and go right back at it and do 4 more.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, but I still say to this day that whenever you go into a tournament, you always feel a little bit charged.
Oh, without a doubt. I agree with that, yeah.
There's always a rush feeling, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's but those were good years. Good years. The extra money was good, but but just being at some of those events was worth the whole thing.
Bet it was. And I know you've still make it to as many games as you can get to these days.
We certainly try. We probably don't. Frequent them as often as we could, but excuse me. We certainly try to do that, Dan. Yeah, we certainly do.
Bob, I appreciate the time. Thank you for all the years that you put in at KMAV, and it's always nice to talk to you, Bob.
Good to visit.
You bet.
Thank you.